After Joshua had hamstrung the horses and burned the chariots of this great army assembled against the children of Israel with fire, Joshua turned back at that time and captured Hazor and struck its king with the sword. For Hazor formerly was the head of all those kingdoms. And they struck with the sword all who were in it, devoting them to destruction. There was none left that breathed. And he burned Hazor with fire. And all the cities of those kings and all their kings Joshua captured and struck them with the edge of the sword, devoting them to destruction, just as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded. But none of the cities that stood on mounds did Israel burn, except Hazor alone, that Joshua burned. And all the spoil of these cities and the livestock the people of Israel took for their plunder. But every person they struck with the edge of the sword until they had destroyed them, and they did not leave any who breathed. Just as the Lord had commanded Moses, his servant, so Moses commanded Joshua. And so Joshua did. He left nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded Moses. Joshua left nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded Moses. There was a totality to what happened, to what Joshua did in response to what he was commanded to do. And it's that totality that we want to consider in our reflections today. We read in the passage that Joshua heads south and destroys Hazor, the lead city, the largest city of the Northern Alliance. Hazor was, as the text reminds us, the head of all those kingdoms, the London, as it were, of its day, the epicenter of all these kingdoms. The description of Hazor as the head of all these kingdoms is attested by its size and by its prominence. Archaeological evidence in relation to Hazor is of a well-fortified city with international contacts which confirmed its leading status in those days. But despite its leading status, despite it being well fortified, Joshua burned Hazor with fire. He burned Hazor with fire. Now, Hazor was one of only 3 cities actually burned by the Israelites in the conquest of Canaan, joining Jericho, Joshua 6:24, and Ai, Joshua 8:19. The other Canaanite cities were taken and inhabited by the Israelites, but only 3 cities were burned with fire, Hazor being one. It's interesting that archaeological excavations indicate that Hazor was destroyed sometime in the late 14th century BC and was not rebuilt until the time of Solomon. Read 1 Kings 9, verse 15. But verse 15, the last verse that we read together, is key. As the Lord commanded Moses, Joshua left nothing undone. There was a totality to what he did. There was a totality. There were no half measures. The phrase left nothing undone emphasizes complete obedience, not partial obedience, selective obedience, or doing that which was convenient. They attacked these cities, and Hazor was attacked until none were left remaining. Joshua fought with passion and with commitment. He didn't ease up until he had accomplished that which he was commanded to do. A master builder once said that a house fails and falls not because of the big beams, but by the small nails which are neglected. And victory in the Christian life is often found in the small nails of consistent obedience. And Joshua certainly had within his toolkit, as it were, those small nails of consistent obedience. Often Joshua is portrayed as a military general, a military leader, and that is true. But Joshua's greatness was not in his strategy, but rather in his submission. His greatness was not in his strategy, but it was actually in his submission. Israel's conquest succeeded not because of Joshua's brilliance as a military leader and a military strategist. No, Israel's conquest succeeded because Joshua refused to rewrite what God had said. Israel succeeded because Joshua refused to rewrite what God had said. Joshua honored God, and therefore God honored him. It was Warren Wiersbe who said this, quote, "Obedience is the real secret of victory. God's commands are not suggestions, but divine strategies. God doesn't bless our plans, he blesses our obedience." The Canaanites knew the judgment of God was coming against them, and they were afraid of it. They could have acted in faith like Rahab did. They could have surrendered like the Gibeonites did, or they could have left the area. However, the text tells us that many did not, and those who remained fell under the judgment of God. Joshua left nothing undone. He was faithful in carrying out the command which he had been given. He fought with passion and commitment. His greatness wasn't in his strategy, rather in his submission. May our greatness, like Joshua's, be found in our submission to our Commander-in-Chief, Jesus Christ himself.